There's a connection between hospital and being hospitable and hospitality. They're all about welcoming and shelter and including people. In Romans chapter 12, it's the conclusion of the book of Romans. There's a whole list of things we're being given instructions to consider as Christ followers. And it says, share with God's people who are in need, practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you, bless and don't curse, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn, live in harmony with one another. Don't be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Don't be conceited. Nothing in there is too surprising. Some of it, though, is often ignored. We treat it like it's a smorgasbord. You know, I'll take 1, 3, and 5. I don't understand it that way. I understand it to be a collection of things that will enable you to be spiritually healthy. You know, if you talk to a nutritionist and they said you need to eat less sugar and less salt and less saturated fats and don't eat highly processed food, and you say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll eat less salt. But I'm going to double down on highly processed foods and I like sugar, you're not going to get healthier. And you're not going to get spiritually healthier if you see lists like that and you think, well, I'm pretty good on 3 out of 7. And it captures my attention that it says we practice hospitality. How do you become more hospitable? By practicing hospitality. You know, most of the things that are really important in our life, the professionals who engage in those things are called practitioners. They practice. Doctors practice medicine. Brain surgeons practice brain surgery on people. Well, Christians practice hospitality. And some of us are out of practice. We've come up with some of the default places, you know, like, Pastor, what's the church going to do? If you've asked me that question, you likely got this answer. Well, I'm not sure. What are you planning to do as a part of the church? There's no mysterious closet where the church dwells. It's us. And we are given biblically in multiple places, we're going to look at just a handful, the direction that we are assigned this responsibility to practice hospitality. Corrie ten Boom's family, her father was a watchmaker. The watch shop was in their family home. And for many years prior to the German occupation, the ten Boom family was known to be hospitable to strangers, to people, they shared their home for tea and Bible studies, and it's what made possible for them to hide Jews once the Nazi occupation began, was their home was well known in the community as a place where people were welcomed. So when the pressure of German occupation came, they simply implemented something that was already a routine practice for their family. They built a secret room, a hiding place for the Jews, and more than 800 Jewish people were moved through their home as a part of the underground towards safety. But they didn't invent a response. They simply utilized a response that was already their expression of the grace of God in their community. Practice hospitality. Look at 1 Timothy chapter 5. Paul's writing to Timothy. He's talking about widows. And he's saying you can't be put on the widow's list just because you're a widow. Geez, that seems harsh. Have you ever heard the phrase that, you know, pure and undefiled religion is to help the widows and the orphans? Right? I mean, that's at the head of every fundraising letter you get from everybody. Not inappropriately so. But the rest of the story is important. Paul doesn't say everybody that is a widow deserves to receive support. Wow. What about compassion? And then he gives this list, and it's intriguing, and I'm not trying to come up with a new legalistic system, but he says no widow may be put on the list of widows unless she's over 60. And I don't really think that's so much about a chronological point in a time when the life expectancy would have been far below 60, unless she's already a remarkable person. And then there's a set of character-based things. She has to have been faithful to her husband. She's well known for her good deeds, such as bringing up children, showing hospitality, washing the feet of the saints, helping those in trouble, and devoting herself to all kinds of good deeds. The people that he says you should help are people that everybody knows are helping people. That's a dramatic paradigm shift from the world we live in. Is that fair? But I just want to direct your attention that the Scripture, and I could give you multiple other places, tells us that we are to become hospitable people as an expression of our faith. What can we do in the face of a world with escalating violence and hatred and immorality and intolerance? We could practice being hospitable. See, we're all equipped for this. Even if you're a widow, it says you're expected to do this. I'm not trying to add to your to-do list. I'm trying to awaken us to what it means to live as a Christ follower. We've had a focus on a set of things, and they're not wrong, but it isn't complete. And I'm not suggesting you earn your way to salvation. I am suggesting that you have to bear fruit that gives evidence that the Spirit of God is present within you. In Acts chapter 1, Jesus ascended back to heaven. So for the first time since they met Jesus, his closest friends are now left without access to his physical presence. I think that would be unsettling. I have some friends at Turning Point, and it's a whole new season for them now that Charlie's no longer present. Well, in Acts chapter 2, Jesus is no longer available. And it's a completely different response to the world. And in verse 42, it says, they, the believers, devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. And everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. You know, that doesn't sound very dramatic. The outcome sounds dramatic, that there were many miraculous signs being done, now not by Jesus any longer, but by the apostles. But the on-ramp to that outcome, it seems pretty mundane. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. And it's important, the next phrase, it says, and to the fellowship, not to fellowship, not to hanging out, not to being together. They devoted themselves to the fellowship of the believers. A lot of chatter these days, a lot of noise, a lot of about, I don't have to go to church to be a Christian. But I agree with that. You can accept the Lord in the produce section of the grocery store. You can share your testimony in the gym. But you will not grow to maturity unless you are doing life in the midst of a community of believers. And that's biblical. And by Acts chapter 2, these people that were closest to Jesus devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. They devoted themselves to the fellowship, the group of believers that were available to them, and the breaking of bread and to prayer. That sounds a lot like hospitality to me. Now, invariably, somebody will try to spiritualize it and say, well, they were celebrating communion. Then I think they would have said that. Obi-Wan. And we can stay in Acts chapter 2 and I think get a little more clarity. Just 3 verses later, every day they continued to meet in the temple courts. And they broke bread in their homes and they ate together. Again, I think it's extended beyond the notion of just communion. With glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So it's a very similar pattern to what we read in verse 42. This is just 3 verses later, same chapter. Again, Jesus is left. They're trying to figure out what to do. How do we maintain this? How do we sustain what we learned when Jesus was with us? And it says they devoted themselves to the apostle and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread together. And the Lord was doing remarkable things. And then 3 verses later, it says every day they continued to meet together. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together. That sounds a whole lot like being hospitable, doesn't it? And look at what the Lord did. It says they enjoyed the favor of the people, and the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Imagine if we did something as profound as open our homes Oh, I don't know, do something crazy like a video study with Nan Gurley. And invited somebody. Well, I invited somebody and they didn't come. Well, invite somebody else. Well, it hurt my feelings. Well, tell the Lord and then ask Him to heal your feelings. Do you have any idea how many people visit church and then don't come back? If I were sensitive, I'd be rolled up in a fetal position somewhere whimpering. They didn't like me. But we'll continue to practice hospitality.
Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. Hit the bell for notifications. If you want to, leave a comment.